Hey, welcome to the Empowered and Free podcast. My name is Erin Kimbrell, and I'm a counselor, certified life coach, breathwork coach, and small town mom of two. I know firsthand what it feels like to live with high functioning anxiety. For most of my life, I had so much mental mess, anxiety, people pleasing, perfectionism, overthinking, constant worrying, and never feeling good enough. On my decade-long journey to feeling better, I've learned how to take back my life from high-functioning anxiety and helped others to do the same through my coaching and breathwork programs. Now I want to share everything I know with you. This podcast will help you feel empowered over your high-functioning anxiety and free to finally live the life of your dreams. Now, grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and dive into the episode. I'm Erin Kimbrell, and this is the Empowered and Free podcast. Hey, friend, I am pumped today to be talking all about 15 simple things that nobody tells you can be making your anxiety worse. Okay, so why am I covering this today? Because you guys need to know this. There could be some really simple shifts that you can make in your life that could help you feel a lot better, right? And so what I mean by that, what we're going to be talking today about are simple changes you can make. I am not going to be telling you to go to your deepest emotional wounds today. That's not what I mean. I'm just going to keep it simple with little changes you can make to have a big impact on your anxiety. Will this be easy? Not quite, right? It might feel actually really hard to make these changes in your life because these might be habits that you're stuck in or things you have been doing for a long time. But you know, it actually feels really hard too. Living with constant anxiety. That's actually super hard and really sucks, to be honest. So I also want to mention that if you struggle with anxiety and high functioning anxiety, be looking out for an announcement I'm going to make on the podcast on March 1st, 2023. This is going to be huge, something I have never done before. I'm super, super excited for you guys to hear about this. And if you're listening later in the future, go to episode 12 right now or whenever you end this episode for more information because you are not going to want to miss out on this thing. All right. So let's go ahead and jump in. We are going to first start with the basic needs. What do you actually need for your body to function on just a basic level? We cannot be running our body on fumes or your body's going to give out. It's going to glitch out. And that might be part of what's happening to you now. I just kind of think about that meme that says, like, why am I anxious? Is it because I haven't slept? Is it because all I've had to drink is coffee, right? Is it because I've overworked? There's so many things that go into how we feel. Anxiety can be kind of complex, but I want to help you guys break it down with some simple changes you can make. So the first one is lack of sleep. All right. If you know me, you know I'm a girl who loves to get 9, 10, 12 hours of sleep. But the truth is our bodies just really can't regulate when they're sleepy, when they're tired, because it is one of the basic human needs that we have. I cringe when clients tell me that they only get 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, like consistently. And I try to remind them that most of us and our bodies need more sleep than that. Now, everybody's different. I'm not here to tell you that what you need is wrong just because maybe it's different than me. Sometimes I wish I could run on 4 hours of sleep because I could be so much more productive. But what I want you to hear is that you could be doing yourself a really big disservice by not getting enough sleep. You're not helping yourself out at all. Your body is running on empty, friend. It is just trying to survive. It is just trying to get through the day. It can't possibly do the work it takes to work through the anxious thoughts and feelings that come up. So if you're tired, that would be one of the things I would encourage you to focus on. Number one, lack of sleep. Number two, simple thing that nobody tells you that makes anxiety worse is not drinking enough water. Okay, here we go again with a basic need. Most of the human body is water, like about 60% of our body is water. And when we're even just super mildly dehydrated, so just a little bit, 2% dehydration can cause trouble with us regulating our emotions and how we feel. And guess what? Feeling anxious is an emotion. So if we're 2% dehydrated, it can be hard for us to kind of calm down, to regulate. I was joking with another basketball mom on my son's basketball team about our water bottles being our emotional support water bottle, but it's so true. I carry my water bottle everywhere, and I drink water all the time because I feel like crap when I don't. So make sure you're getting enough water. This might be one of the easiest things you can do to help your body control its nerves. So get in that water, friend. And while we're on the topic of beverages, let's talk a little bit about something we all like to drink, which is caffeine. Okay, I have a love-hate relationship with caffeine. But here is the truth. Caffeine is a drug. Okay, a drug is anything that changes the way our body feels and operates, right? Caffeine is a drug because it's a stimulant, aka it speeds our body up. So the natural effects of caffeine mean that our heart beats faster. Maybe our body gets hotter. Our breathing rate is increased. All of those things that I just mentioned mimic the feeling of anxiety in your body. Think about that. If you've ever had a panic attack, you know that just escalates through the roof. So it's hard for our mind to know that this is just an effect of the caffeine that we had. It's an effect of that coffee, and it's actually not anxiety. It feels the same. And so in our mind, sometimes we start to panic when we're used to feeling those symptoms of anxiety. And then we have caffeine and then we think, oh my gosh, I'm anxious, when really it's just that you just loaded your body down with something that just sped it up. Maybe you've noticed that when you have caffeine, this is me. I have noticed that I can get jumpy. I'm like on edge. Every little thing's like, my body just cannot. My body is pretty sensitive to caffeine. Let's put it that way. And everybody has different tolerances. Like my husband can drink caffeine and go to sleep. That's not quite me, but that's okay. All right. So I want to tell you a quick story about caffeine, and maybe you can relate. When my anxiety was at an all-time high level, so my stress level was through the roof, my blood pressure was up, my anxiety was high because my blood pressure was up. Hello, health anxiety, right? And I had to go. I was at work for the day and I just had to go home. I was like, okay, I got to get this. I got to get it together. This is not good. So I remember that being like a big turning point for me, that I decided to cut out caffeine completely, which is like mic drop, because I love caffeine. Okay. I just really like it. So when I decided to cut it out completely, I just had to. I had to go cold turkey. Now, I was miserable at first, completely miserable, but eventually I noticed that I felt way less anxious because I wasn't having any coffee or any caffeine in general, right? But for me, it was mostly coffee. That was kind of my caffeine of choice. For me, at that point in my life, when my anxiety was super high, caffeine was a no-go for me. It was like, cannot have any. And I actually lived that way for over 2 years. This was before I started like really doing work on my anxiety. This is when I was kind of working on myself in a different way and like self-love and all of that, but not really work through my anxiety. And as I've done the work, okay, I know I talk about the work all the time, but as I've done the work and I'm in the place I'm in now where anxiety does not feel like a norm for me, where I experience it here and there and in mild doses. And when I do, I'm able to work through that. Now I can have caffeine, but then I couldn't have caffeine. And I know a lot of you guys love caffeine just like me, but I just want you to take a beat here and notice, like, is this helping me or is this hurting me? I'm not saying you have to give it up forever, because here I am, like I've been drinking coffee and caffeine for a long time now that I've healed those anxious feelings in myself. But maybe for you right now, it's something to just think about, like decreasing a little bit or going cold turkey like me and cutting it out. All right. Now, I do want to mention here, if you love coffee and you don't think you can cut it out, you're like, no, I really need to have that. I can tell you, I've tried everything under the sun. I've tried like all the coffee replacements, and I have found the holy grail of products. Finally, I've been using it for about 2 months now. I think I'm on my third order, It is called Everyday Dose. Okay. I do have you guys a coupon code that I got. I haven't even used my own coupon code yet. I've been buying this at full price for myself, just to try it out. And I love, 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 love it. I'll tell you why in just a second. My code, if you want it, is Erin Kimbrell. It's just my first and last name, or I'll put a link in the show notes that you can easily click on and get you some, honey, because it is the good stuff. If you like coffee, but you don't like the way it makes you feel, then you need to try this. I am obsessed with my ritual of coffee. If you follow me on Instagram, you see me on pretty much a daily/weekly basis of being on my front porch, sipping on my coffee, just having my alone time. It's like one of my favorite things in life. I'm not exaggerating. But the coffee was wrecking my stomach. It was making me feel like kind of that racy, jittery feeling, like not loving it. And so I had to find something else. Like I said, over the past probably 5 years, I've tried every coffee replacement I can get my hand on. And some of them are just gross. Some of them are gritty or grainy. Some of them just don't have any caffeine. And I actually like the caffeine and, in a good dose, not too much, or they just hurt my stomach just like coffee did. So what's the point? I can tell you that here's what I love about it really quickly if you're looking for something. If not, skip forward about 30 seconds and then I'll be on to the next. But I love that it tastes like coffee. It does not have that mushroom coffee taste. That's weird. I do put creamer in mine, so maybe that helps too. It is smooth like coffee. It does have a little bit of caffeine, like 39 milligrams, I think, per serving. It does not hurt my stomach, which is wonderful. And the best part is it gives me energy and gives me focus, which is like, that's exactly what I need and want in the morning. So like I said, again, 15% off at the code Erin Kimbrell. And the link will be in the show notes if you want to check that out, if you love caffeine, just like me. Okay, back to number 4. Number 4 of 15 simple things nobody tells you are giving you more anxiety. And this one is alcohol. Okay. If you feel a little testy-westy that I said that, take a beat. Even just a little bit of alcohol in some people can cause you to feel more anxious in the following days and the days after you drink. All right. And I have spoken to many people who feel like it's actually a major trigger for their panic attacks. Like there's no other reason that they're having them other than they trace it back to the fact that they had alcohol in the day prior. And this is what's been proven. It can lead to panic attacks because of the disruptive effects that it has on your central nervous system. Your brain's ability to calm down, to calm down your body, to calm down your mind, is limited when you drink, which makes sense because caffeine is an upper, but alcohol is a downer, right? And so it actually slows the body down. We also know alcohol makes a big impact on our blood sugar. And when that blood sugar drops, we have the same feelings of anxiety. We get that nervousness, we get agitation in our body. We also know that alcohol dehydrates you. And when you drink too much and then you have a hangover, dehydration, poor sleep, you lose all the vitamins and minerals in your body. And that detoxing process of alcohol can again feel like anxiousness and worry in the body. So limiting your alcohol, friends, or cutting it out completely might be something you want to think about. I have never been a big drinker, so this is an easy one for me, but I've just noticed I just don't feel great after I drink. So it's something I very, very, very much limit now. Okay. All right. On to number 5. Number 5 of simple things nobody tells you that can be causing you more anxiety is excess sugar. Now, I love sugar, my friends, but the truth is sugar throws our whole body out of whack. I know that we feel like that pint of ice cream or that dessert, for me, it's like pretty much anything with chocolate. I know sometimes we feel like that is just going to solve all of our problems. But when we eat too much sugar, again, that fluctuation in our blood sugar, that spike, and then that drop, these are things that cause us to feel worried, irritable, sad. That sugar rush hits and our anxiety symptoms kind of intensify at the same time. Okay. So just checking out how much sugar you're having. If you're having it, maybe you want to start balancing that with some protein, with some carbs and some fat so that it doesn't have such a big impact on the body. Because when we have those big spikes and drops, it can also feel like a panic attack to some people. So again, simple thing to check. How much sugar are you having? How does your blood sugar feel? And on to number 6, this kind of goes hand in hand. Skipping meals, not a good thing for our anxiety. And why is that? Okay, we talked about some of the other basic needs like water and sleep, and food is obviously a basic need we have to survive. So when we're not feeding ourselves, when we're not feeding our body is on edge waiting for that food to come, waiting for that food source to come. Also, again, we have an impact on our blood sugar when we're not eating. Maybe you've noticed, this is something I notice for me when I skip a meal. I feel jittery. My hands kind of start to shake. Obviously, my stomach is growling. And those same feelings of like anxiety or agitation, maybe dizziness, maybe you feel like lightheaded. I feel like that sometimes too, or weak or confused. All of those symptoms are signs that your body and your blood sugar are out of whack. So check some of these things we talked about. Are you eating? Are you eating enough? Are you eating balanced meals? For me right now, I'll just share like a personal goal I've been working on this year is balancing my blood sugar with every meal, with every snack. So this feels super important to me. And I definitely believe that these things are making an impact on every part of our body because our body is very, very smart, friends. Okay. Also, one last thing I'll mention about this is if you have low blood sugar often, if it reoccurs, this is also associated with mood disorders, which again makes sense because our bodies are in sync with each other. If you're somebody who's like, there's no way I can make time to eat 3 times a day, which can't relate, but okay, y'all know I like to eat. Your girl likes to eat. But if you don't, or if you feel busy, or if you just haven't been somebody who eats breakfast or some lunch or whatever it is, make sure you're putting in place some healthy snacks that, like I said, are balanced. I am not a nutritionist. I am not a dietitian. I know people that are. If you need suggestions, let me know. But these are just some basic things we can talk about. Okay. Number 7 is another basic thing. All of the junk in our food, guys, these food additives, fake sugars, food colorings, and dyes. When we eat these things, there's a reason why we feel more mood swings, why we feel more anxiety when we're eating these things that are just purely man-made chemicals. The truth is, the fact is that these dyes, these artificial, whatever it is, sweeteners and colors and flavors and all that, these things are neurotoxins. Neurotoxins. They are toxic to our nervous system. And guess what has an impact on our anxiety? Our nervous system. So again, just something to check. How many food additives are you eating in your food? And is there a way you could do a simple swap to maybe not eat as many? Okay. All right. And number 8 is the last thing I'll mention that has to do with like food and your body, nutrient deficiencies. If you're not getting enough vitamins, again, that impacts your nervous system because our bodies are smart. We need to be balanced. We need all these vitamins and minerals in our body that help us feel our best, that affect our mood and affect our metabolism. Now, there are some out there that we can take to help with this. I, again, am no doctor. Please do not take any recommendations from me about what you should be taking. But personally, I see a naturopath and she checks my blood work every few months. We see what I need to add, what I need to adjust for my body. So I encourage you to check out that for yourself. There are some I take like magnesium, right? Helps with stress levels. There are so many things that we could be taking that could help lower anxiety in our body, but you don't know unless you go to a professional that can help you. All right. But a simple thing I could think we could all do is take a multivitamin every day, right? Keep the nutrient deficiencies out. Okay. Now we're going to shift onto things that we're doing. Okay. Our behaviors. A big one, number 9 of 15 simple things nobody tells you can be causing you more anxiety. Number 9 is not moving your body enough. Our bodies were not meant, they were not created to sit inside all day on our computers, on our phones, scrolling, watching TV, doing whatever we do, right? Our bodies were not meant to do this. And so many of us work in this, obviously, like digital age. This I'm creating right now on a computer. We were not meant to do this 24/7. We can't move that stress from our bodies if we're constantly sitting down. Okay, so here's an example. If a stressful text comes in or I get an email and I'm like, and I feel that stress, I feel that expectation or whatever it is, I need to complete that stress cycle by moving my body. It is a need that our bodies have, again, a basic need. So the best thing I can do for myself in that moment is to get up from my phone or my computer and to take a little walk. All right. Whether it's walk around the house, whether it's go outside, get some sunshine, but we need to be moving our body. And so many of us are not doing this as a regular part of our day, or we're not doing it enough. All right. And again, I'm not perfect. Like there are definitely things on this list I can work on. And one of these for me is making sure I'm moving my body enough every single day. I feel a big difference when I go to lay down to go to sleep. If I haven't moved enough, my body is not as tired as it should be. Another thing we know here is that research has shown that exercise can be more powerful than antidepressants. Okay. More powerful than antidepressants. We know that when we just sit around, it makes our anxiety worse for a few reasons. One of them is we're just sitting and we're thinking, right? And we can kind of get in these anxiety spirals. But another thing is that we're not getting those feel-good chemicals that we need by exercising. If you guys have been around for a while, if you've been following me for a while, you know that a few years ago, I made this kind of like commitment to myself to walk every day, whether it was for 5 minutes or longer, whatever, but 5 minutes was all I tried to do to get out there. And this was more for my mental health than it was for my physical health, because I knew that I needed those feel-good chemicals to be in my brain and in my body. So I know that anxiety can be overwhelming, but one of the best things you can do for yourself is get up and move. You will be probably astonished to feel the difference when you do that. All right, number 10 of a simple thing that we can do that nobody tells us impacts our anxiety. And I think you guys probably feel this. A messy environment. Your house is a mess. If you're like me, your mind is kind of just feels like scrambled eggs. It just feels jumbled. I like to have a clean, calming environment. It is super important to me. It makes a huge impact on how I feel. And one of the main reasons is when my mind is busy. If you're listening to this, I guarantee you have a busy mind. When our minds are busy, we like to have that calm environment around us. It feels nice. It feels like I can think. It feels like I can breathe, right? And so just notice for you, is your house impacting how you feel? If you need, and I won't go down like a rabbit hole about this, but if you need somebody to help you get started in this journey, I highly recommend Ali Casaza. She is one of my close friends, but before she was a close friend, she was somebody I found early on in my motherhood to help with minimalism and decluttering. And it, you guys, when I say changed my life, I'm not kidding. It really has changed my life. So if you want to check her out, I highly encourage you to do that, because she talks about the impact our environment has on how we feel. Now, it's not just for moms, right? It's for everybody. Another reason our environment can impact our anxiety and make it worse is because we see the cluttered home, we see all the things we have to do, and it just sits at the back of our mind on our to-do list. And maybe you don't have time, like maybe you're busy, but you see all the crap around you and you're like, oh, I need to clean this up. I need to do that. I need to fix this. I need to do the laundry and whatever it is. That just sits and that to-do list just piles up and makes us feel more anxious. Makes sense, right? So check your environment. If you're feeling a little stressy, Bessie, check your environment to see if that can help you feel better. Number 11, being around negative and complaining people. Man, I have this on here as a simple, but is this easy? No, this is one of those that can actually be really tricky. But here's why it's simple. We know that when we're around people who feel like that, who are whining, complaining, and negative, it brings us down. And when we're trying to feel better, when we're trying to feel happier or stress-free or less anxious, one of the worst things we can do is be with people that bring more stress and more tension into our life. So if you're noticing that you're spending a lot of time with negative people, or you feel like you're picking up on other people's stress, it's rubbing off on you, I encourage you to check who you're hanging out with. This can make a huge impact on our mental health. What happens a lot of times here too is that we're fixers, we're helpers. We want to help people feel better. And so we're like, oh, here's a solution, right? We kind of like take on their mess and it's not ours to take on. Another thing is that we feel bad for being happy and joyful. If other people don't feel good, we kind of feel like a little bit guilty for feeling that way. And so we join in on how they're feeling, which again brings us down. Here's what we know about how we feel: energy, feelings, emotions, all of those are contagious. Notice, do you step into a space and you can maybe pick up immediately on how people are feeling? And then maybe you match that energy of the space that you're in. That is exactly what I'm talking about, especially to my empaths out there. You absorb, not only can you notice, right, but you absorb how people feel the moment you step into a space, and you can absorb that negativity, that negative energy. You absorb that and start to feel that for yourself. So check who your circle is and who you're spending time with, and that might be a simple, not easy thing that you can change. Number 12 of simple things nobody tells you impact your anxiety is watching the news. Man, I truly cannot tell you guys the last time I watched the news. It's not even on my radar anymore because the news brings up a lot of fear. It brings up a lot of negativity. The news is there to report the bad things that are happening. The news is there to tell you, watch out for this. And so, of course, you're going to feel more scared, more anxious, more on edge when you watch the news. All right. We also know that the news sends out content really quickly, right? It's super rapid pace. And so it can be really overwhelming to hear all these different things that are wrong with all those like negative images and pictures and videos all at the same time. It's overwhelming for a lot of us. Rarely do you see a positive story on the news. A lot of times it's about war and violence. And for those of us who feel, like I mentioned just a minute ago, feel like an empath, we are vulnerable to feeling that way when we listen to stories about people who are going through like a hard time. Okay, so it is important to stay informed. Sometimes I can be kind of like a stick my hand in the sand kind of person. I'm really trying to do better. It's important to notice where you're getting your news from. Number one, okay, are you checking out neutral news sources or not? And number two, when you need a break. Okay, so if you're somebody who watches the news, could you set aside some time for yourself that you're not watching the news? Could you just check where you're listening in? Just noticing how that actually makes you feel can be very, very helpful. We are almost there. Let's move on to number 13. Number 13 is overcommitting. Overcommitting, again, a simple thing nobody tells you, makes your anxiety worse. But think about it. It makes so much sense. When we say yes to way too many things, it stretches us super thin. And guess what we feel when we're stretched thin? Anxiety. We feel anxious. We feel like that dread of like, oh my gosh, I can't. Do I have to do this? Like, I don't have to do this. Or why did I say yes to this? And we kind of beat ourselves up. So I will do many, many episodes on overcommitting, how to say no when you mean no, setting boundaries appropriately. I have so many thoughts that I want to share on that because that's made a big impact on me. But check how much you're committing your time and how can we not overcommit too much. All right, number 14 of simple things nobody tells you make your anxiety worse is spending too much time online. Maybe you notice that when your screen time pops up and your time that you normally spend is higher than average. And then you think back on the past week and you're like, yeah, it did kind of feel worse. It's because when we spend too much time online, it's not good for our mental health. A lot of times what happens when we get online is we start comparing ourselves. We look at what she did and where they went and what they're up to, right? And that comparison is the thief of our gratitude. We want something that we can't have, and we don't feel like what we currently have is enough. So check how much time you're spending online for that reason of simply comparing yourself. We know that social media is a highlight reel. Again, I could go all into this and absolutely will in another episode. But another point I want to make here is the more time we spend online, the less time we actually spend doing self-care, right? Taking care of ourselves, moving our body, spending our time with family and friends. Nothing beats that in-person connection because we are social creatures. So I know it feels nice to connect with people online, but it truly is not the same as meeting with somebody face to face. So number 14, check how much time you're spending online. And our very last one, number 15 of simple things nobody tells you make your anxiety worse is over checking. And what do I mean by this? Over checking your email. How many times a day do you check your email? Okay. I've gone through periods where I've just had to delete that email app off my phone. How many times are you over checking your bank account? If your finances is something that stresses you out, notice how often you're checking that and how you feel. Probably not great. Are you over checking your social media? We just talked about that, right? Spending time online. Notice how often your finger goes to that Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever it is that you like to use. How much are you checking that? We don't want to feel like we can't just sit for a minute, like we can't just really relax. And when we notice that our fingers are constantly moving to checking on everything else, it makes us feel like we have to keep up with that fast pace, which we know is not really what we need, right? And that actually makes us feel more anxious, feeling that like racy feeling in our body. So if you're feeling stressed about things you're checking, your work email, money, if you're feeling stressed about being left out from something, so you're checking social media, these things literally cause us more anxiety. So my friends, I hope that list was not too overwhelming. I know it was a lot. I do want to run back through them really quickly. And right before I do that, I want to remind you, don't try to tackle all of these things at once. That is not the point. That is a classic overachiever move. And I know I have some overachievers listening here. Pick one thing. Pick one thing on this list of 15 that you're going to change, that maybe you want to work on and improve upon for yourself. Right? Maybe you stop watching the news. Maybe you choose a different news source, a neutral news source. Maybe you do like me and you put some focus on regulating your blood sugar. So regular healthy meals, no alcohol, limiting sugar and caffeine. Maybe you set up your screen time controls so that you stop scrolling Instagram or TikTok until midnight. Been there. Maybe you delete your work email from your phone so you stop over checking. Okay. I will quickly run through the 15 again. So you can think about what's your one thing that you're going to focus on. Okay. Number 1, lack of sleep. Number 2, not drinking enough water. Number 3, caffeine. Number 4, alcohol. Number 5, excess sugar. 6, skipping meals. 7, food additives. 8, nutrient deficiencies. 9, not moving your body. 10, messy environment. 11, being around negative and complaining people. 12, watching the news. 13, overcommitting. 14, spending too much time online. And 15, over checking. Okay, what are you choosing? I really want to know, like truly, truly want to know which one resonates with you the most right now in this moment. Please send me a message. Please find me, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, or if you don't have social media, send me a quick email. I want to cheer you on and encourage you to remind you that you can do this. Okay. So pick a simple thing and make a difference in your life. Also, if I missed something that makes your anxiety worse, I really, truly want to know. So please let me know that too. I want to hear from you guys. This is not just me talking to you through a microphone. I want to hear how this impacts you. Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You don't know how much it means to me. If you'd like more behind the scenes content, inspiration, and daily reminders that encourage and uplift you, follow me on Instagram at heyerinkimbrell and send me a DM to say hey. If any of the episodes have been super helpful for you, please consider leaving me a review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. It helps me so incredibly much, and it allows the podcast to be seen by other people who need it. If you want to learn more from me, head to heyerinkimbrell.com. That's where you'll find all my free resources, read the podcast show notes, and learn more information about my online coaching and breathwork programs that help you create the life you want. If you want to keep the conversation going from today's episode, join us in our exclusive podcast Facebook community, Empowered and Free Help for High Functioning Anxiety. I'm here for you, and I'm always cheering you on. I'll see you next time. I'm Erin Kimbrell, and this is the Empowered and Free podcast.